Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We're going to give everyone another minute to get in. We see a lot of people entering the webcast now, so just stay tuned and we'll get started in just a minute. All right, it looks like we're getting more people in. Hi, everyone who's joining. We're going to get started in just a minute. We're just giving everyone a chance to join. All right, I think 2 minutes is enough. What about that, Taylor? We'll give everyone a little bit more time as I go through some introductions, but we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. Welcome from wherever you're joining us for today's webcast featuring the Willard Smart Exit Sign. We're going to get started, but first, I do have a couple of housekeeping items to cover. This presentation is being recorded, and the recording and slides will be shared after the webcast. We also ask that everybody stay muted throughout the presentation, and we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A. But if you do have a question during the presentation, please use the chat window to submit those questions. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. Taylor, if you can go to the next slide. I'm Maddie Hawkins. I joined Aquitas a little over 7 years ago, and I've spent the last few years leading our go-to-market efforts around IoT and augmented reality solutions, or what we refer to as our connected maintenance solutions that work seamlessly with Maximo. Today, we're really excited to feature one of those, the Smart Exit Sign, and I have a fantastic partner here, Taylor Scally, who's going to lead you through today's webcast. Taylor has over 18 years experience working with industrial companies. He joined Cache Valley Electric 4 years ago, overseeing business development efforts. And for the last 2 years, Taylor has led their focus on IoT solutions and managed services offerings, including their role as the master distributor and installer for the Willard Smart Exit Sign. Before I hand it over to Taylor, I do want to give a quick introduction of Aquitas. Taylor, if you can go to the next slide. Perfect. So Aquitas is a gold certified IBM business partner focused on all things Maximo. We were founded in 2006 based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and our consultants average over 14 years Maximo experience. Now, a few years ago, we did start shifting into this IoT space, building a portfolio of what we call connected maintenance solutions. And we received a lot of recognition over the last few years, including Maximo World Awards, CRN IoT Innovators Awards, and an Uptime Magazine Solution Award. We work with customers across industries, including manufacturing, utilities, oil and gas, and of course, facilities. And all of that left us perfectly positioned to team up with the IBM, Willard, and Cache Valley teams to help bring this exciting new Smart Exit Sign offering to market. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Taylor. Go ahead and take it away.
Wonderful. Maddie, thanks so much. And I appreciate Aquitas and the opportunity to be with you today and share with you the Willard Smart Exit Sign solution. So with no further ado, what I'd like to start off and talk to you about the sign is really to start off with what the challenge is. The challenge we're facing with making sure Smart Exit Sign, or making sure exit signs are in compliance, is based on the NFPA 101 life safety regulations. And basically what those regulations require is that every 30 days your exit signs need to be tested. And they need to be tested to make sure they're illuminating and tested to make sure their battery is working. They're also required to do a 90-minute annual test, and the signs must remain operational during those testing. Written records need to be kept by the owner and given to the authority having jurisdiction upon request. If you were to take a look at this image down here in the lower left corner, this really is the crux of what we're dealing with. For over 40 years, we've been testing exit signs the same way, and it typically requires 2 people to get on a ladder and to test every exit sign and document it. It's labor intensive. In some facilities, it's very inconvenient, for example, like a hospital. It's expensive to send 2 people around and do this. Keeping a paper trail, everything. But most importantly, it's really a liability issue is what we're finding. And I'll talk more about that later on in this presentation. Fines can get pretty expensive. They start off at around $13,000 per violation, and those fines can raise up to $132,000 for repeat offenses. We've even seen one hospital where they threatened to shut them down because they weren't compliant and had so many violations written against them. So it really is a challenge and an issue that we're dealing with. So we want to go to our first poll question and love to get your feedback. How many of you are currently performing your monthly and annual NFPA compliance testing of your exit signs? Just a simple yes or no, and excited to see what we hear. Oops.
All right, we'll give it about 10 to 15 more seconds. All right. Taylor, it looks like we had 40% of people say yes and about 60 say no.
Okay.
So back to you.
Wonderful. And do you know what? That's not too surprising of a result. It's kind of what we've been seeing across the board when we go and talk to people about the solution. So let's talk about the actual exit sign versus a smart exit sign. The key to this slide, or what I want to talk with you about here, is sustainability. Your traditional exit signs are built with a 90-minute battery at best. And that battery is a nickel cadmium battery, which when you fully discharge that battery, it will never get back up to that full capacity. A lot of fire marshals know this. And so based upon that, a lot of times they'll just ask owners or facility owners to change out their exit signs every 3 to 5 years, knowing that the batteries just are not gonna function. It's a hazardous material, that battery, so it has to be disposed of properly. So you know, there's a lot of challenges with these your traditional exit signs not lasting long. Some of the hardware advantages of the Willard Smart Exit Sign. It comes with a 4-hour nickel metal hydrate battery, which is environmentally friendly. The battery will last up to 13 years, and the LED lights will last up to 15. So even if you didn't turn the smarts of the exit sign on, the hardware alone is going to last 2 to 3 times the lifetime of your traditional exit sign. A lot of folks that we've talked to, like university campuses and some companies that have sustainability as a top priority, this is resonating in the fact that you're not having to rip and replace exit signs, but also because of the battery and its ability to dispose of it in an environmental safe way. So the solution, in addition to the exit sign having a great sustainability, the exit sign comes with 13 embedded sensors. And these sensors are they're testing throughout the day to make sure that A, the sign's illuminating, and B, what the battery life is at any given moment, or if there's anything not functioning in that exit sign. It can integrate into Maximo for work orders, and it comes with a Willard app and dashboard. And we'll show you a little bit of, give you a sampling of that dashboard in a minute. The sensors in the canopy are based up there, and I'll talk more about half the canopy is still available for additional sensors. So down the road, there'll be additional use cases that we'll talk about a little bit later on. Oh, let me go back. So what I want to do now is actually show you, we'll actually go into the Willard app. So here in the Willard app, here's a exit sign compliance dashboard. And what I wanted to show you is we're going to go ahead and order a compliance report. So here I can do an annual or I can do a monthly. I can select my location. I can select the building I have. So in this particular case, you could have a campus and break it down to a specific building. Let's select a random month and we'll go view the report. So here you can see the date that the report was taken, the time, the actual device ID, the location of the device, and then customers can actually input their exact location on that floor. So if a sign fails or if there's an issue, they know exactly where to go on that floor to address that issue. You can also download the reports, and it's showing our compliance and how many signs I have in this building, this particular building. You can also drill down. Now I'm showing you a Maximo Asset Monitor. In the asset monitor, here we can drill into a specific sign. So I just showed you the USC project, and it's not University of Southern California, in case anyone was wondering. It's a code name. So in here, we're looking at one particular exit sign in this USC project. And what we're looking at is their binary numbers, and they're basically telling us is 0 is good, that there's no critical battery issue or failure. We're also tracking if it's a low battery. So a 0 here is also good, that there's no issue with the battery being low. That's the other benefit of the sensors that we put in here, is we're going to know long before a sign's going to fail. So if you know it's a low battery, the way we designed the Smart Exit Sign is we can send you a new battery to install and not have to replace the whole exit sign. 1 is showing that the LED is working. There's no temperature issues with the exit sign, and that the AC is on. We can go look at a random of any of these exit signs here. Let's look at 127. And again, it's pulling up the data, and it's going to again show us those binary numbers of the critical things that we're tracking on our exit signs. And again, this is looking good, that we've got LED is up and running. There's no temperature issues. There's no low battery. The battery isn't critical, and the AC is on. So yeah, like I mentioned, you can drill into every sign specifically, as well as get the compliance report that you can order monthly, or you can run that compliance report annually. You can also schedule when you want that annual test to take place and what day of the month you want your monthly test to take place. So I'll go back to the presentation. And in addition, I took a screenshot because I didn't have an exit sign that was failing. In here, I took a screenshot of one of the signs. And again, this was USC 101 is the asset ID. Mentioned it's out of compliance. It's telling us also if we want to create a service request out of Maximo. So, and it's showing us that's a high alert. And when we ran this, it was showing us like every 2 minutes, it would show another report. So again, it's just making sure, pinging me in any given moment if one of my signs has failed or is in the process of failing, if it's comes up as a low battery. In addition, here's another screenshot that I can actually do look into the particular device and find out all the particulars about it. What day the device was added, what the device ID is, and again, showing me at the bottom here how often it's being reporting data. So, and what I'm showing you today is version 1 of the Willard app and the dashboard. Come mid-October, we'll be rolling out our version 2 of the dashboard and the user interface. So we're excited where we're constantly doing improvements and updating the dashboard. So now we're going to go under our question number 2. During a recent install, Cache Valley cut the power to the building. When they cut the power, what percentage of current exit signs were dead? Do you think 20%, 40%, or 60%? And we'll give you a minute to answer that.
All right, we'll give it a couple more seconds here. All right, gonna go ahead and close and share the results. Taylor, it looks like 60% of people said that 40% of the signs were dead, and 40% of the people said that 60% were dead.
Got it. Well, if you chose anything but 60%, you're all dead to me. So we had 60% of those exit signs when we cut the power to that building. The assistant fire marshal was present when we cut the power. He looked around and he just looked at us and said, we can't afford not to do this. 60% of those signs were dead. And to me, if there's one message I could leave with you today is people can very well be compliant with their exit signs when they test them every 30 days. But the very next day, it may fail and people are still going to be liable. And that's what this assistant fire marshal, when he saw this, and those were his exact words is, we may be compliant, but we're still going to be liable and we can't afford one loss of life in this facility. It surprised all of us, and I'm pretty sure it'd be very similar if we went across and cut power off to any of your facilities that are on this webinar, and you'd probably have very similar results. The benefits that we're looking at from the Willard Smart Exit Sign, first of all, is it removes the need for manual testing and visual inspection. A lot of times that can be extremely disruptive in the environments that you may have in your buildings. There's an instant return on investment, not only from the hardware, that it's just a far superior exit sign, but also from the maintenance of those exit signs, automating that maintenance. You're avoiding expensive penalties, the automation of the compliance. And speaking of the automation of the compliance, I was talking to a facilities manager of a hotel chain, and he mentioned that he was day before he had just walked the whole hotel to make sure everything was ready to go for the inspection. Everything looked great, and he said he got out on the tour the very next day, and they're walking around, and the fire marshal turns and says, "Your exit sign there is dead." And he just shook his head, saying, it could go down any moment. And it goes back to where I mentioned earlier about you can be in compliance, but what's beautiful about the Smart Exit Sign solution is you have, your exit signs will function in an emergency. At any given moment, not just every 30 days. Maximo can provide these automated service requests if repairs are needed, and just having a great IoT solution. We're really excited about this. So we'll go to our third and final question. Do you know your current costs to maintain your traditional exit signs? Either yes or no.
All right, we'll close. Looks like 22% said yes and 78% said no.
Got it. So, and for some people it may be difficult because you're not monitoring that. Typically, we've seen a few ways that this has been handled. One, people know their costs if they're outsourcing it, and outsourcing it, we've seen people pay anywhere from typically $25 to $50 to maintain the current exit signs. I've seen a company that outsourced it, and they were charging them $70 per sign just for them to walk around and monitor it for them. And then if people are monitoring their exit signs on their own, typically it's a security guard or an admin assistant that's providing the testing. Again, the problem we find with that is it's someone doing this work that really is not their job responsibility. So it comes to a productivity issue as well. And it's a liability issue because it's really not their job. And so we found ways to kind of estimate what those costs are based upon their salary and how much time they're taking to go walk around and test all their exit signs. The other thing we're finding is a lot of people are just walking around and seeing that their signs are illuminating. They're really not getting on the ladders and testing the battery. And the other option people say is, well, my exit signs are on generator backup. I don't need to test my signs. It's really interesting when people say that their exit signs are on generator backup, the testing and the requirements to be compliant become twice as complicated and intensive to make sure your exit signs are compliant. The reason for that is if your exit signs are on generator backup, you not only have to pass NFPA 101 regulations, but that generator now has to fall under Article 702 of the National Electric Code, the NEC. And those requirements are a lot more stringent than just a generator on having a backup generator. If now that your life safety assets are on a generator backup, there's even more requirements and scrutiny and testing and performance that needs to take place. Also, it's not just that you have to test the batteries every 30 days, it's to make sure the sign's illuminating. And what we found is people that are on generator backup, they may test their generators that they fire them up, but no one transfers the load. And unless you're transferring the load, you truly don't know if those exit signs are going to function in case of an emergency. And no one is going to transfer those loads. And for the mere interruption for their customers, it just is not happening. So if you're on generator backup, it's even more labor intensive to make sure those exit signs are compliant. So we're going to look at the ROI or talk about the return on investment for a little bit. I mentioned earlier that people are spending anywhere from $25 to $50 per month per sign to test. If you take that, just one sign over 5 years, you're spending anywhere from $1,500 to $3,300 just to make sure your signs are compliant. And that's, the 30-second monthly test, get on the ladder. It's the 90-minute test. It's all the paperwork that you're needing to take care of. Typical exit signs, I know unit price here is anywhere, I've heard anywhere from $100 to $300. I've seen them as cheap as $50. But you got to times that with the monthly test and the annual test and all the paperwork, and it can add up pretty quickly. The Willard Smart Exit Signs, the cost of the exit signs are $250, and the monthly hardware and software maintenance that comes along with the solution is going to be under $10 per month to maintain. And so you're going to realize pretty quickly a return on investment within the first 12 months is what we've been seeing. And we're very excited about the cost saving that it's going to provide customers. I wanted to share with you who are the partners that are making this solution come to fruition. Obviously, IBM is a great partner with helping us with the software, tie it into Maximo, the user interfaces. We're very, and also they're part of the sales force taking this solution to market. Cache Valley Electric, like Maddie mentioned, I've been with Cache Valley for 4 years. Our main role is the master distributor. And then our other role is we oversee all sign installations. It doesn't mean we perform all the installations, but to make this a very easy solution for people to purchase, we didn't want salespeople to have to track down an installer in any given city. So we provide one phone number to everyone that says, hey, I've got a customer that wants the smart exit signs. They can call us, and we've got a great network of electrical contractor partners all over the country. So we can arrange for someone to provide an install quote. If a customer has a preferred installer, we'll work with that preferred installer. We'll just make sure that they meet the certain specifications and that the installations are done properly. So that's really our two main roles. Willard IoT is the inventor of the exit signs. Pasco LED Lighting, they're the designers of the sign. Observian is a subsidiary of Cache Valley Electric. They've helped a lot with the firmware and the software integration with Maximo, which has been a wonderful help. And then obviously our best partner, of course, is Aquitas. Their sales force, they're real excited to get this out into the market. And they obviously also are a preferred Maximo integrator, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be working with them to get this sign to market. Future innovations. There's kind of two groupings here of future opportunities. Like I mentioned early on in the presentation, in the canopy up here of the exit sign, sorry, I lost my cursor. There we go. It also comes with egress lighting, which is an added bonus, particularly in new builds. It requires less egress lighting to be planned out on the floor because you can have it built in with the exit sign. But inside this canopy, I mentioned earlier that half of it is open space to be able to add additional sensors and additional use cases. Some of these additional IoT use cases we're looking at are wayfinding, track and trace, acoustics, etc. Right now, the exit sign is a life safety device, and that's the main purpose of it going out right now, and that's what we're going to market with. Early adopters and people that look at purchasing the solution are going to be able to provide us feedback of what are these additional use cases that we could add to the exit sign. In addition to additional use cases within the sign, we're also looking at additional life safety devices. The next one coming to market is emergency lighting, or to be specific, stairwell lighting and universal lighting. By the end of 2022, in addition to the smart exit sign, we'll have the same technology put in egress lighting specifically for stairwells and for universal lighting, for example, in a parking structure. We will be rolling those out, and again, they can be used on the same platform with Maximo and the same platform of our user interface and the Willard app. So we're excited to roll out the egress lighting. So Aquitas would like to make this offer to anyone on this webinar today, that if you want to see what kind of savings the Willard Smart Exit Sign can provide, they can calculate your potential return on investment, customize it specifically for your buildings or your campus with a very few questions. Maddie's contact information is here listed. All you need to do is reach out to her, and she can provide all that. Once she has all the information, she can do a quick turnaround and show you what you could expect as far as an ROI with this solution.
Yeah, and hey,
Also,
Taylor, real quick before we move on, I just want to mention that ROI, we're looking at not just that next year, which clearly we can get that savings in the first year, but also looking at 3, 5, and even 15 years out. So again, if you're interested, please reach out to me. My information's on the screen.
No, thank you. I'm glad you referenced that. You're right. It's not just the first year, but it's 5, 10, 15 years. They can customize that return on investment, whatever works best for you. Also, we're real excited to offer a 30-day pilot program. If you're excited about what you've learned today and you'd like to say, hey, you know what, I'd like to test this out, we would love to offer you a pilot which includes 10 Willard Smart Exit Signs, the cloud access, the Willard app, and also if you'd like the option of the maximal integration, it's an additional cost, but we can offer all that in a 30-day pilot program. The cost of the pilot program is the cost of the exit signs, which are $250 a piece, and the cost of the installation. If you have a preferred installer, we will coordinate and work with that preferred installer. They just give you their quote and then the cost of the signs. If you don't have a preferred installer, we'll find one for you and get you a quote. Like I said, we'd love for people to take advantage of this. Another nice thing is if you love it and it all goes great, then we'll put together a proposal for you for the rest of your campus, your building, whatever. If you say, hey, Taylor, thanks, that was great, but I don't think it works for us, you own the signs, you keep them. The beauty is they'll work just like a traditional exit sign, you just don't turn on the smarts to it. So we're excited to offer this. Again, you can reach out to Maddie for this, or you can reach out to me. Maddie and I work in a great partnership that we would love for you to test out this solution. We'd love to get it into your buildings. We couldn't be more happy with what this could do for you and your company. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have, comments, mud flingings, backbitings, criticism. If you have any of that, direct them to Maddie. If not, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Taylor. And real quick, everyone, before we do get into questions, I do want to mention this was our first of a series of webinars that we are hosting through the MORE community. So please make sure to register for future events. I do want to have another special shout out and thank you to Taylor and the Cache Valley team for supporting this webinar. The next topic is on steam trap monitoring. It's going to be on October 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern time, featuring Bill Studler from Penn State. And we will include that registration link in the follow-up email to today's presentation. So like Taylor said, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions. Feel free to unmute yourself to ask a question or put it in the chat window, and we'll see if anyone has any questions, which it does look like I've got at least one coming in. Let's see. Taylor, how is the sign connecting to the network and sending data?
Right, it's a Wi-Fi connection sending data. Now, I believe I have on the panel, I have Dan Hutchings from my office, who's more of my technical guy. I'm wondering if Dan could specifically address that.
Thanks, Aquitas, for having us again. My name is Dan Hutchings. I work with Taylor Scally for Cache Valley Electric. Right now, the exit sign in this version is Wi-Fi compatible. It's only a 2.4 radio, wherein it's very low data submission, right? Like reading sensor data is not high volume or anything. We opted for just the 2.4 radio because of the distance that gives us. Also, then you can isolate all your, in most enterprise systems, you can push all of your higher throughput devices to your 5 gigahertz as well. We are currently under development with a cellular option as well as an Ethernet option. But just thinking through, right, like those options don't always make sense for installations in certain areas, but sometimes they make a lot of sense. So on the roadmap, we'll have more capabilities, but as of today, we only have Wi-Fi as an option.
Thanks, Dan, for answering. And Dan, I'm going to have you give a bit more information. And I'm glad this question came up about how is it connecting, how we're getting the data. It is a Wi-Fi connection, and then obviously, a lot of times when we've gone out to talk to facility managers, the next question that comes up a lot is, what about security? What about our IT team? What are they going to need to know? We have a frequently asked questions on network that would satisfy the IT folks and their concerns with having a device connect to their network. Dan, do you want to just talk just briefly about making sure everyone feels and knows that the sign is secure and we've hit every security requirement that's needed?
So for the sign itself, right? Like it's full-blown encryption, right? AES 128. We've got and it's only sending data out, right? Like the only connections when it sends data out, the only data that it would download is information from an MQTT server as far as scheduling of tests, right? Like there's no pushing massive uploads to it. There's no it's by architecture, right? Like it's not really a vector path in. And what we've also seen is a lot of customers will just create across their enterprise wireless a separate SSID and tunnel that back to a DMZ on a firewall, so it's not even touching anything else, right? So more in line with a BYOD device. Some customers will just put it on their pub network and allow it to function just there. If a customer does want to monitor the signs themselves as an IT device, we have had that request. It will respond to ICMP requests, so you can ping it to make sure that it's up-down status periodically. Obviously, there would be some coordination there as to what device is what, but traditional IP and Ethernet, you make DHCP reservations or have them register their host name, and away you go.
All right, thanks, Dan. We'll keep you around a little longer. Thank you.
Thanks, Taylor.
All right, we actually have a handful of questions here, so I'm going to go to the next one. From a cybersecurity standpoint, can some features be turned off, like the person counting? And there's another question about generally turning off the signs. So if you could talk about that a little bit, Taylor and Dan.
I'm probably going to refer this one to Dan as well because I'll screw it up.
Yep.
So in regards to the sensors that are in the signs, the person counting one can definitely be turned off. There is an internal temperature sensor internal to the canopy, and that can be turned off as well, right? Like you can just make sure that information going forward is not part of the payload. And then you would just get the monitoring of the battery and the LED illumination, of which is only specific to the sign, right? Like there's no other environmental data that goes from there. And then what was the second part of that question?
Sorry, it was just about turning off the sign or features like person counting.
Correct. So for those sensors, yes. As far as the actual turning off of the sign, if you turn off the smarts of it and don't activate anything with it, the sign will continue to operate as a regular exit sign would. So in the event that there is a power loss from your main AC power, whether it be 277 or 120, it will turn on its emergency egress lighting. When power is restored, it would turn it back on.
Great. And then Taylor, I'm going to say this question is for you. There were actually a handful of questions that came in various iterations clarifying the pricing, the $10 per exit sign per month, the monitoring fee. If we could quickly just talk a little bit more about the costing and licensing, I think that would be beneficial from some of these questions that are coming in.
You bet. Like I mentioned, the price of the hardware is $250. Depending on volume, that price can be adjusted. Similar with the monthly reoccurring for the software, firmware, the maintenance. I say $10 or lower, depending on the number of signs that you're looking to install, we'll adjust that monthly pricing. I just wanted to throw $10 was a good number to start from. It's not going to be above that, but it can come down from that significantly depending on the number of exit signs. So I just want to give that as a pretty good base to start. If someone wanted an actual quote, Maddie can put a quote together for you specific to how many signs you have for your campus or buildings. But again, $250, and then the monthly will depend on number of exit signs, and the $250 can come down also based on the number of exit signs.
Perfect, thanks, Taylor. One of the questions is, let's see, have you installed signs at any military bases yet?
We have not installed any signs at military bases. How do I say this? We've talked to a few branches of the military, and I got to be careful what I say there, where we're exploring opportunities for armed forces, which means we've got to be cybersecurity compliant, and we're going through a lot of that protocol to be able to provide this solution for military bases. So we're familiar with it. We're in talks. I just can't mention with who.
Great. Let's see. Can you confirm the dashboard is accessible from mobile devices?
The dashboard will be accessible for mobile devices, correct. It's been designed for that. Dan, did I misspeak on that?
No.
Great. All right, let me see. I'm sorting through these because there were some duplicates. Let me see if there's any others. Let's see. Shane Kehoe, are you on from IBM? There is a question about the protection of data in IBM. Please speak to the protection of data in IBM. That's a little confusing, but I think the gist of it is what is the data protection of the solution? That may be a Shane and a Dan question.
Yeah, well, really just from an IBM perspective, you know, that's kind of a big IBM. IBM takes data security obviously very, very, very importantly. And, you know, IBM has some of the largest customers in the world. So, you know, from an IBM perspective, yeah, there's, you know, obviously that's a very, very key piece of IBM's strategy is data security. And we take data security very, very importantly, not just from a perspective, but from a data center perspective. So, you know, if somebody wants to get into that in more detail, I'd have to probably bring in one of our experts. But, you know, from an IBM perspective, it's, you know, obviously security is extremely important. And like I said, we've got some of the largest customers in the world using our cloud.
Fantastic, thanks.
So to follow up with Shane's point, it's not just the security of it, it's also the ownership of it, right? Customers' data is their data. It's not their data as in everybody else's. And I know that's a sensitive issue right now out in the information technology spectrum, so.
Yep, that's exactly right, Dan. We hear that all the time. Concerns about owning the data. Want to make sure the customer owns the data. Okay, if the Wi-Fi signal goes down for say 30 minutes, is the readings and data from this time still available?
The answer would be yes, that they're constantly gathering the data, and then once it's back up, Dan, correct if I'm wrong, it would just deliver all that data at that point.
Correct. There is some buffering that occurs, and again, right, like it's battery failure is something that isn't necessarily sudden and happening right without any warning. So it's trend over time. And so even if, right, like let's say that Wi-Fi were lost for a few days, when the Wi-Fi connectivity is restored, the data that is out there, it will join back up with what was there and do any predictions. And unless there is something that is causing harm to the battery, right, it won't have any impact on the device as a life safety, any impact on the life safety functionality of the device.
Great, thanks, Dan. Okay, we've got another one. Shane, cover your ears. Does the sign function on other platforms than just IBM?
Yeah, Shane, cover your ears.
I'd better let Taylor answer that one.
The answer is yes, it can tie into other clouds. Now, we love IBM and our preference would be to do everything with IBM, but if you have a customer that has another cloud preference, the sign can be integrated into any cloud offering. That is an option.
All right, thanks, Taylor. Another pricing question that actually I will answer. It's the Maximo integrations would be a different cost altogether. I'm assuming Aquitas would offer services to integrate the data to an asset monitor directly into Maximo. That is correct. That is an additional cost outside of the hardware and the monthly monitoring fee. We have that priced at $12,000 for up to 2 instances and additional instances at $3,000 right now. So that is an additional cost, but again, one time for up to 2 instances. And then moving down the list.
Well, and Maddie, I think when we talked about the pilot we do the install in the 10 signs, that would go up. We can do that with for an addition, like what Maddie said, you could do the Maximo integration so you see that from soup to nuts at that point, or do the pilot and then do the integration afterwards. It's up to the customer.
Yep, that's right. We don't really care when it happens. We can support either way, pilot or full implementation. Okay, and please speak to how the information is collected from the signs, where it is stored, and security aspects of gaining access to the information. I know we talked a little bit about this already, but if we could review that again, how it's collected, where it's stored, and security aspects of gaining access.
Dan, you're earning your money today, so it's all you.
Okay, so when the sign is deployed and connected to the network, right? Like it will be sending data back to a cloud, wherein it is putting the data in a few different places, right? Like the cloud environment that we're standing it up in meets a lot of different security parameters, but some of the specifics of it, we are using MongoDB to collect some of that. Our data, we have a data retention policy with it for every sign that's out there for the life of the sign. And then gaining access to it, right? Like we allow API integration with it, and our software development team can provide keys around any different security requirement with it, and then through API we can pull that data and put it wherever it needs to be. So on a high level, that's kind of some of the different components of it.
Great, thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, and I think this might be the last one that I can see. Is the battery readily accessible or is it proprietary?
It's readily accessible. So, like I said, when we designed the hardware, if there's going to be a potential fail with the hardware, most likely it's going to be the battery. And so we made it accessible so we can do a simple plug and play and not have to replace the whole sign. So no, the battery is not proprietary.
Thanks, Taylor. Okay, there were a lot of questions that came in. Really appreciate everyone's participation and all of the questions. If there are any that we did not get to, I'd ask that you come off mute now and ask your questions. Or Rachel from my team, if there's any others that I missed, feel free to ask them. We'll give everybody a minute to come off mute. All right. Going once, going twice. All right, well, hey, I think that was plenty of questions, don't you too? And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, you're gonna get the recording and the slides as a follow-up to this webcast. Please feel free to reach out to us with any other questions that you have. Taylor and I are here to help you answer anything that you need clarification on. Is that it for today? Are we good, Taylor?
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Again, to Maddie's point, if we could be any service, we'd love to talk with you, walk you through the solution, something more personalized for your particular needs. But if not, I guarantee you're going to be looking at exit signs every building you enter in now. So have fun checking out everyone else's exit signs, and when you're ready to do a pilot, call us.
That is very true. I've been looking at exit signs since we started talking, so thank you for that. All right. Thanks again, everybody, for joining today. Thanks, everyone from my team on the Aquitas side, from Cache Valley, and Shane from IBM. Really appreciate all the support. Everyone have a great day. We hope to see you on the next one.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye.